All right, I'm here with the one and only Mr. Todd Craighead, and a few years ago, I had my first turkey hunt. They paired me up with you to your detriment, and I asked a lot of questions, and something that really stuck with me was we're in the blind. It gets pretty boring after 3 days of not much going on, and you pull out this turkey call, and it's got a bunch of signatures all over it, and you tell me this story, and I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. So what... Just everybody listening or watching, what's the history of your Quaker Boy call?
This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview conservationists, hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the greatest stories, information, and advice from the best in the world.
So this one is very special to me. In 1999, I got to meet Dick Kirby, who's the founder of Quaker Boy. He was headquartered out of New York State, and he would go on a turkey slam every single spring. And I think he has the longest streak in North America, and it's impressive. It was like 40-something years that every year he got every subspecies of turkeys. And one time he came through Oklahoma in '99. So I got to go up and meet him and interview him at the ranch that he was staying at. And he was literally only there like 12 hours. Got his bird, we did some interviews, and then boom, he was off to the next one. But to thank me for doing the interview with him, he sent me this box call. And it showed up in the mail a couple weeks later. And it's signed by him, custom crafted for Todd Craighead, your friend Dick Kirby, 1999. And got a little drawing of a turkey on it. And on the other side, I've got some other signatures. But what I feel very lucky that I just happened to have the idea when I got this call that the first bird that I shot, calling it in with this call, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be kind of cool to just write that on the spine of the call? For April 14th of 2000 in Alfalfa County. And that's all I put, a 19-pound Rio 1-inch spurs. And then the next year, I ended up getting another bird, 2001, 2, 3, and on. And I had kind of a little bit of a quest. I'm a collector of things, whether it be stickers or calls or whatever it is. I can't just stop with one. So when I started putting the stats of the turkeys on here, I thought, wow, wouldn't that be so cool by the time I'm 80 or something to have a living history of all the birds that I called in with it. And I've almost run out of space. Like, I don't even know where I'm going to put this year's bird on here. I'll find someplace.
Space right here.
Yes, right there. Yeah. So it was kind of a lucky thing that I kind of just stumbled onto and just thought of it on a whim. And now I can't go to the woods without this call. I mean, the confidence level it gives me is out of this world, because I can look there sitting when I haven't heard any birds for hours and look there and remember 2018 Canadian County Jake, the West Pasture. And I instantly remember exactly what that was all about. 2017 Caddo County, a Big Tom by the barn. and the list goes on and on. And so, yeah, I started thinking I would just do my own turkey harvests on here. But over the years, I've had the pleasure of using this call to call in lots of people's first birds. So when I call in somebody else's bird with this, I've logged that. Here, Jeff DiGiacomo, first bird, Canadian County, April 21st, 2022. And just on and on. There's so many. 2013 Jackson County, first bird for Hans Dilbeck, filmed for Outdoor Oklahoma. And just, I mean, it's just, it instantly teleports me back to each one of those hunts, and I relive it, and I never get bored waiting on turkeys. And then beyond just the sentimental value of the call and all the memories that it represents, this is just like the best sounding box call I've ever heard.
It's got a nice patina on it.
It does. I mean, it's legit. I've been a little worried over the years that I would break it or I'd get caught in the rain. Some of them are kind of smeared. So I sprayed kind of a varnish finish over it to try to preserve it a little more. I'll put it in a Ziploc baggie. Mm-hmm. If there's any chance of rain, I'll keep it in that vest in a baggie, just not to ruin and lose all the memories. But yeah, I just love this call to death.
It's one of my favorite stories I've ever heard. I mean, I really think that is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And why don't you give it a good old rip so people can hear what that turkey call sounds like.
Man, I love it.
Yeah, and I like turkey calling because, like, duck calling is pretty complicated. Yeah, I mean, it's not the hardest thing ever, but it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
If you go to any outfitter and get yourself one of these, I happen to literally by chance buy a Quaker Boy call.
Isn't that cool?
It is really
Didn't
cool.
Even mean to do that.
Not on purpose for this interview or anything, for real. And I remembered the rubber band trick because I remember you had the rubber band on there.
Yeah.
And I opened it up out of the box, and I could make a turkey sound with it.
Absolutely.
I miss a couple notes now and then, but I'm not.
All right.
I'm not perfect. So what are the key tips to the box call? I mean, it's the basic
some fundamentals with it. One thing when I see a person pick up a box call for the first time is that I think they grip it too tight and too hard. This is a very, very light finesse touch. I'm just barely hanging on to that thing. And so when I'm moving it, I'm just barely hanging on, letting the call do all the work. I'm not forcing the lid to, that's just not going to work. It's just a very light, and that's how you get that bouncing across the sides, is just with a super light touch. The other thing on a box call, and yours particularly is a little easier to do, but don't put your hands and grip the sides of the call. That's got a lip on the bottom of it on purpose. That's not just a decorative design. That's on purpose. Just grab the bottom of your call so that you're not interfering with the vibration of the sides. Okay? So you're pinching the bottom just lightly, and you're holding the top very, very lightly, and it's you're listening for a sound. What I would recommend is close your eyes. Don't even look at the call. Close your eyes and experiment around with the movement until you get the right sound. If you start too far out, you don't get much sound. If you don't strike too much, you don't get the right sound either. There's a sweet spot, and you'll hear it. That's in the sweet spot. And then, so that's how you hold the call. The sound that you make, the most basic sound and the best one for a box call is just a standard plain old yelp. That is a hen's bread and butter. That's what she does all day long. She'll putt, she'll purr, she'll cackle, she'll yelp, she'll do all kinds of other things, but that yelp has killed more turkeys in North America than all the other sounds combined, probably. So if you can master that yelp and think of it as a loose kind of musical chord that you're trying to duplicate. And I think of each time I make a sound, that's a strike, okay? So if you think about a pattern of 4, 5, 6, 4, and you have I'm not saying you have to count that every time, but you do a few yelps and a little dramatic pause, a few yelps and a dramatic pause. And that's what yelping is. So that's the yelping and the pausing, and that is it. Once you find the sweet spot on the lid. You learn not to hold the sides where we're dampening the sound, you know, where it can't reverberate and vibrate. And you find that sweet spot and you get that rhythm down. Man, that's all you need. You need a gun and some ammo and that right there, and you can kill a turkey.
All right, so we're going to have to rate my call here. I'm going to try it.
Okay.
I'm going to give her a rip and see what happens. So I'm going to put this mic
You need to
down.
hold that?
Sure.
Nope. Okay.
So I'm going to get it. Close my eyes.
There you go. You're doing fine. That would do it. That would do it. So your call, you could tell it had a little bit higher pitch than mine. And I'm guessing, without even trying it myself, I'm going to guess that you could create a little bit deeper of a sound by not striking so far out and striking closer to here. And you're keeping the sound in here, and it's kind of like a muffler on the bottom of your truck, you know. Keeps the sound in there, and it sounds a little beefier. There, you're getting it. You can literally envision her saying yelp. There's that winding up, and then the hitting, the crescendo of the note, and then an abrupt end to it. Yelp.
Does the speed matter?
Yeah.
It does?
Speed and the pattern of what you're doing matters way more than the actual sounds that you make, okay? Turkeys don't sound perfect every single time. It's important to not stop. Say you're in the middle of doing a little call sequence and your fifth note is a squealer or you missed it or something. Don't bring attention to it by stopping. Just keep on going. Just keep on trucking through it. Whether you make a mistake or it sounds perfect, just finish your pattern out.
Good metaphor for life right there.
There you go. Keep on trucking.
Is that too fast? Is that good?
In my opinion, that might be a little too fast. You got I would say you've got the dogs over there wound up. You hear the bird dogs can hear it all the way over there. I would say that there's a happy medium between that being too fast and too slow.
Okay.
If you'll think in your head, yelp, 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 yelp. So if you're going to get the full length of each yelp, you might need to start a little farther back and bring it to it. You're a turkey caller.
I'm a turkey caller.
Yeah. The front end of this, where it attaches, is actually lifted off of the box, and yours has a little spring in it.
Yep.
And so what that's for is to be able to do like you were doing. You did it perfect, but when you come back, you lift the lid up, and then you strike against the side, and you lift up. You're kind of doing with the tip of the handle. You're kind of doing like a semicircle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And the more natural it becomes for you, the more you do it, you'll find that you don't even have to really lift it very far up off the box.
Just
you
barely.
can find where you can come back really pretty quick.
Okay. Well, let's move on. What's a little more advanced call? Like you're talking about purrs, you're talking about clucks.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
Okay, so the purrs is you can do it with your mouth so that you understand what you're doing. You're just a fluttering of the tongue or your lip, or some guys will use the uvula in the back of the throat. Like you're gargling. Okay. So that's the sound. It is very, very subtle. It's like a finishing call where you're not probably going to convince a bird from 300 yards off to come up to you with a purr. But if you've got one hanging up at 50 and you need him to come 10 more yards, he can definitely hear that purr. And it's a conversation that she's having with the other hens in the area or with herself, or she's talking to You know, you're talking to that tom. It's a conversation. So you don't, in a conversation, you don't completely say the same thing over and over. You don't completely say the same thing over and over. You don't completely say the same thing over and over.
I might.
You mix it up, and your inflections change with the intention of what you're talking about, right? So think of that being different ways to communicate with that bird, or how birds communicate with each other. So they might have some, and I don't have enough chalk on this to really purr very good. So I'm mixing purrs with putts and yelps. Okay. And I honestly don't use them a whole lot. It's a little harder and more of a delicate touch when you're trying to do purrs on a box call. Pot and peg calls or slate calls, whatever you want to say, those really, really work good for purrs and putts. But, you know, since I don't do a whole lot on this box call, and this is the one that I almost exclusively use, obviously you don't have to use the putt and purr. Sure. But for a putt, you would bring your hand up on the back side and put your finger over this side panel, and then put and then you're just going to tap. Well, I don't know if I can do it. I don't have enough chalk.
You want to try mine?
Let's see if I can do it on yours.
Do it on this one.
Okay. So you would
brand new.
Close that over. That's not all that good. Almost found the sweet spot. That's a little bit of a purr right there.
Okay.
You know, that's a little bit of a purr.
You putting a little more pressure on it than normal?
I am. I'm blocking it and controlling.
So it's almost like it's skipping over, like.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, I hear that's a distinct difference.
Yeah. So they're not going to just constantly purr, constantly putt, or constantly yelp. But mixing those three different sounds in together on a conversation will sound much more realistic.
Agree.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the mouth calls. This is a little more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The hardest part I had to overcome, to be completely honest, was not gagging when I put it in my mouth. It is tough to get over that, and you got to find the right placement.
Right.
So what would the practical application be of a turkey mouth call for a beginner?
You know, what you become comfortable with should be your go-to call, and don't forcibly make yourself have to use in a hunting situation something you're not comfortable with. And so using mouth calls, some guys love them, and some guys are phenomenal at it and can use them way better than I can use a box call. I can't. You know, I have bought a fortune of mouth calls over the years, you know, looking for just that perfect one that has the rasp, but it's not too high pitched, you know, that it's not too flat, you know, that has some bounce and rasp to it. And I just can't really master it.
Yeah.
But they have a place, you know, they have their place, because with a box call, for the most part, you've got to use both hands. And to finish a bird out that is hung up just out of range, it's extremely difficult to get away with murder, literally, by keeping your gun up, running running the call with both hands, and being able to be ready and anticipate when to shoot. So it is difficult, I will admit. What I have found that I'll do is that I will, when I've got a bird coming in and working, then I will put a mouth call in.
Okay.
I don't spend the whole hunt with a mouth call in, but I get it in my mouth so it's an option that's there available to me if I want to. use the box call to bring him in as close as he can. If he comes in within range with the box call, great. If he hangs up out there, or this is a very real situation, he comes in strutting. I don't care to take strutting shots at turkeys when their heads tucked up against their back, their feathers are all puffed out along the back, their tail's up. You have a significantly smaller kill zone to kill that turkey. And also, you know, I mean, you could shoot it if it was facing you and strutting, but you're also possibly going to lose a lot of tail feathers.
Yes.
So I'll use a mouth call or just my mouth sometimes when I've got a bird that's in range and he is hung up at the decoys, or maybe there's multiple birds there all strutting and they're just pirouetting like ballet dancers around my decoys, and I can't get one to stick their head up. So that's when I'll use the mouth call. And in turkey language, a putt is a alarm call. It's a warning from that one turkey makes that, hey, there's danger here. It's like one of us yelling, watch out, you know, and what do you do when somebody yells, watch out? You stop and you look, like, what is going on? So it breaks them out of that strutting, and most of the times, as soon as you putt, they'll go into a half strut and stick their head up, like, what's up? Where's the danger, you know? And boom. So I don't putt on a strutting turkey until I've got the head up. I know that if there's my gun up, got my gun up. If there's multiple birds strutting, I already identify which one I'm going to shoot. I want to shoot the one that's separated from the others. I don't want to accidentally shoot two birds, you know, unless your state allows it, or county or whatever. But where I hunt, you can't do that. And so I've already identified, okay, I'm going to shoot this one that's on the far right. If I shoot him when he sticks his head up, stray pellets are not going to hit the other birds. Okay. So I get my gun up, I'm ready, he's in range, and then I give him the distress call. And he's like, yeah.
There we go.
He like, what was that? You know, and he sticks his head up and boom, there's your chance, you know. If you don't have the call, you can still do it. You know, and just kind of a real aggressive, desperate sounding kind of yelp, kind of. Now, that's the putt. That's what I mostly use the mouth call for. But there's times when he's 50, 60 yards out and he just won't commit. He's just staying right there. And the reason, you need to understand, the reason that he's staying there is because that's what happens in the natural, you know, world. The tom struts and is on display, and then he gobbles, and the hens come to him. So you're trying to break his natural instinct and eventually come to you. You know, that's not what he's used to. You know, he's used to being the cock of the walk and the ladies come to him.
Yep.
And so that's why he's many times hanging up out there. It's like, if you want me, you got to come get me. And so you've got to convince him that you're worth him coming to you. And if he's in close, you can't get away with much movement. You know, if he's just out of gun range, but there's not anything in between you, trees or bushes or anything, then you've got to stay extremely still, because, man, they can pick up anything. The slightest movement they will see. So that's when you could be ready with the mouth call to finish yelping. The cool thing I think about employing both calls is that they sound so different that it's going to sound potentially to him like two different hens.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that would even increase his vulnerability to you and his eagerness, like, oh, there's not just one, there's two, you know? So that's another fringe benefit of having two calls ready to go at all times. And I'm probably going to butcher the yelp, but I'm going to try it.
Okay, let's hear it. Sounds good to me. I'm no turkey.
It would probably be good enough to kill most turkeys, but it's very hard to master and get over that gag reflex like you said.
The worst part.
So, well, what I would suggest, keep that little container in your console of your vehicle.
I do that.
And when you're driving around by yourself, you've got a perfect little echo chamber in the cab of your vehicle, and you can hear it really well. And you can practice and sound as horrible as you have to until you're good without disturbing everyone else around you. So, yeah, I always, a couple months before turkey season, I break out the mouth calls and I stick them in the truck. I'm probably never going to master a mouth call and sound extremely good. But I want to sound just good enough that it's an option for me if it needs to be.
So let's hear that. The first one you did, that was the cluck or the purr, or which one was that?
Okay.
You gotta find it.
Close your lips, build the pressure up, and then let it burst out through your lips. There you go. You're doing it better than me. That sounds better than me. What's the deal here?
Beginner's luck. And then we have your typical yelp.
Right. Same kind of thing. You're building up. I build up the pressure and do it all in one breath. One yelp series is all in one breath. I built up the pressure, and then I let it out. You're getting there. I like the rasp and low pitch of your call better than this one. So what I would say there is think in terms of how long each of those notes or yelps is lasting. It's probably a tad long.
Okay.
You would want each one of those bursts of a single yelp to be about half that length in duration. Yep. Another thing I'll do sometimes is I know how to run the box call, so I'll run it to force myself to keep up with the rhythm. I mean, this is muscle memory now. I don't even have to think about it.
That would confuse a turkey.
Yeah, so that taught me right then, I was going too slow earlier.
Okay.
And my notes were too long earlier because I know how this is supposed to sound.
Okay.
So I'm teaching myself through something I already know how to do.
Wonderful. So last but not least, so you have an owl call, and I'm gonna pull this out of my mouth. You have an owl call, and we were sitting. I think it was the last day of the hunt. The first year we came to the Hunt Fish Podcast Summit we're at right now. And we're sitting on a tree, it's dark, and you just start wailing on that thing. And I go, what is that? I mean, I've heard an owl before, but I'm just like, what is going on here? So what is the practical purpose of an owl call? And then we'll figure out how to blow the dang thing, because I got one right here.
Okay. The practical purpose is you're wanting to, this is called the general term for anything that doesn't mimic a turkey is they're called locator calls. So it could be a peacock call, a crow call, an owl call. Some are under the philosophy that if you use something they've never heard before, it's going to shock them, and so if you use a sound that they hear all the time that they're used to, that might not have the same intent that you're wanting. But I find it works plenty good enough for me.
I've seen it work in action.
And so a locator call, what the beauty of a locator call does for you as a hunter is that it forces the gobbler to reveal his location without you having to reveal your identity.
Okay.
Like if you're walking through the woods and you're just randomly yelping on your box call or your mouth call or something like that, you may get a gobbler that responds and gobbles at 50 yards from you. And then what do? Oh my gosh, I got to scramble and find a place to sit down and get all set up and set a decoy out and then get my mask up and totally still and quiet. And he may have been so close that he's already coming your direction. And then he sees you through the trees and he takes off. You never know. You wonder, well, I got all set up and I started sounding like a turkey and he never showed. He was just 50 yards. You probably busted him. You probably scared him. So with a locator call, you can sound like, you can force him to gobble and you don't have to reveal what you are, And so that's the beauty of it. They're used in the early morning before shooting light, when they're still on the roost. You think okay, they generally roost on this creek bottom somewhere in here. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to blow this turkey call, and it's going to shock them to gobble. And now, bingo, I know exactly what cottonwood they're in over there. Now I can, jockey into position and pick my setup and all that. And I do all that before I ever sound like a turkey to them. And so they're great. Crow calls do the exact same thing. I don't know. There's some differing opinions that these species are communicating and talking back to one another. I don't really think that. I personally think that you just scared the snot out of them, because you were so close and so loud with something, and he's like, whoa! Yeah. But it's, he gobbles, but it's like, whoa, where'd you come from? How'd you get in so close? So that's I love locator calls for them. I always have a crow call and a owl call with me. The reason is I typically don't just blow an owl call in the middle of the day because you don't really hear owls in the middle of the day.
Yep.
That might be giving turkeys too much credit to connect the dots, but that's not something that they would typically hear. So they're going to hear a crow all day long. They're going to hear an owl, early morning and late evening. And so they're great resources and the reason I have both is so I can have them for an all-day hunt, use them different times. This one is kind of special too. I don't know if I actually told you this, but this one it's a Mark Prudhom's special limited edition, and it's signed by him. It's signed, and it's worn off, but it's signed by him. He was probably he places often at the National Wild Turkey Federation's, World Championships in owl hooting. He places often, and he's been the world champion numerous times. And so I had a friend of a friend that knew him and said, I'm going to send my buddy Todd one. So I've never met Mark, but thanks, Mark, because this has helped me finish off a lot of turkeys. And it's got some wear and tear off on it from over the years too, but it's still, I'm not going to get rid of it because it still just sounds so good.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
What's it sound like? Yeah.
Okay. If you've not heard an owl much before, you think they have a pattern as well, just like a turkey, except you can actually put words to it. Who cooks for you with a pause, and then who cooks for you all? Yep. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?
We've all heard it in the woods at night.
Yeah, that gives you the pattern and the rhythm. Okay, and then what I like about this is at the end I can flutter my tongue and get a really deep, gravelly, raspy sound at the end.
That's the one I remember.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
Oh, yeah. It's not very loud.
No.
I wouldn't bother with this call on a windy morning. If it's howling, this ain't going to do much.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, mine's a little different.
Who cooks for you?
I don't know. Mine's whatever, polycarbonate, whatever.
Yeah.
HS.
Hunter
Systems.
Hunter Specialties.
Hunter Specialties. It's got a big old reed in there, almost like a giant duck call.
Yeah.
This one is pretty loud.
Okay, and good.
I had to do some reading on it. You got to cup it.
You need an echo chamber in there and some back pressure.
So.
There you go.
not the greatest.
Wait to flitter your tongue until that very yawl at the end. There you go.
I'm a pro.
You're getting it.
I'm ready to go hunting.
You're getting it. I am ready too.
Well, Todd, thank you for sharing all this information. You're the first person to ever teach me all this, and I've been obviously trying to figure it out ever since.
That's awesome.
So my good friend Seth filming here, I want to get him a turkey before I even get one. That's all I care about at this point.
That is awesome.
And you're big on mentorship, so I'm trying to take that to heart. So thank you for everything you've taught me, and you've taught a lot of people over the years with the TV show. Let's be honest. So
well, good luck, my friend.
thank you.